Well, what better place to talk about winter wheat weed control than a soybean field there?
Well, you know what, Brian? A lot of guys in our part of the world try to get soybeans off fairly early, then they can come back in and put a winter wheat crop out. So they may plant a little earlier soybean. In this field, of course, it's a later soybean, so this isn't where there's going to be some winter wheat.
But one of the reasons why I like being out here is because getting soybeans into the rotation just helps tremendously with your weed control in winter wheat. However, as you go into the western United States, there are a lot of farmers raising winter wheat on winter wheat on winter wheat on winter wheat, and that's where we start ending up with some major grass problems. But fortunately, we have some new herbicides now, and there are just some different methods that you can use on your farm if you want to have better weed control, which is going to in turn mean better wheat yields.
Well, you know, no matter what crop you're doing, weeds are going to adapt to your rotation. So you guys in the corn and soybean rotation, they have weeds that adjust to that program, and sooner or later you're going to have a weed problem that pops up and you say, wow, how did that happen? It's the same thing in winter wheat. You say, you know, I'm doing a great job on my weed control, that's fine, but if every year you're seeding a crop in the fall, guess what type of weeds are going to come out there? And if you're in a conservation tillage program or a no-till program, you're going to have a lot of winter annual type weeds or some tough grasses, whether it's cheatgrass, one of the brome species, maybe a mare's tail or some of those winter annual broadleaf weeds. Those are the weeds that you're going to be facing. Now, right now, this time of year, believe it or not, is the best time to control those tough grass weeds. And as you're planting your winter wheat in the fall, you need to keep those things in mind. The first place you want to start is with a pre-emerge herbicide.
Yeah, it is, but you know, if you've already got your winter wheat seeded, the pre-emerge herbicide may already be out because your wheat may have emerged. Now, if your wheat has not emerged, the product that we would probably suggest in this situation is called Prepare. With this Prepare, if you go out there, we would prefer to see you do it even before seeding. It's really going to hold down a whole bunch of broadleaf weeds besides a lot of the different grass weeds, the brome species, wild oats, things like that. You'll have some residual going even into next spring. We really like Prepare. It is an ALS herbicide, so I guess the only downside of this is it's real similar in chemistry to Maverick, Olympus, and PowerFlex that you might use later on this fall.
Well, and you could use that Prepare with a Roundup burn down if you're fortunate enough that you've had some rain, so you've already got those tough grasses, that downy brome or whatever grass you're fighting has started to germinate and come through. You know, you'll do a halfway decent job with your Roundup burn down on at least the emerged grasses, but you can mix that Prepare right in there. And if you're in that situation where, hey, I haven't had enough rain yet to get those grasses to germinate, Prepare gives you a little extra time where you're going to get some residual control into the season. Once that crop is up, now we're starting to talk about weed control in emerged crops, and there are some good options for winter wheat.
Now, we mentioned Prepare already. That's okay, but if you have a severe downy brome problem, that's where you want to switch over to Maverick. That's probably the best. PowerFlex is also really good, and so is Olympus.
Well, and your other choice, of course, is you could go with Clearfield Wheat and use Beyond.
Right.
And Beyond is a pretty decent product, also an ALS product. The question that a lot of guys have, though, is I'm planting wheat now, but I'm thinking about soybeans. I'm thinking about some of these other crops. What kind of carryover potential do these products have? And Brian mentioned, Maverick's fantastic on that brome species, but it's got the longest amount of carryover of all these products, so you have to be real cautious.
Right, so with many other crops, you might be waiting 3, 4, 5 years before you can plant that other crop. So you've got to pay attention to the label, and I would say this. You know, if we're talking about, well, which weeds are we going to kill and everything else, you know, you might do a good job, you might not do the greatest job. It doesn't really make that much difference, but when we start talking about herbicide carryover, it makes a huge difference, and I don't want to take any chances is what I'm trying to say here. If it's 3 years that I'm supposed to wait, I'm usually waiting 4 years, maybe even 5 years, because I want to be on the safe side. And even if you ding up your crop just a little bit, you might have 10% yield loss. It's a huge deal. So that's why a lot of farmers that used to use Maverick are now starting to use Olympus or PowerFlex. PowerFlex has the least amount of carryover of these 3 good downy brome materials.
Now, we get a lot of questions about, okay, I can use those products in the fall. What can I use in the spring? Well, in many cases, you're going to be using the same products that you are in the fall, maybe at a slightly different rate or in a little different combination product. But the performance that you're going to get with a spring application versus a fall application, it's night and day. The fall applications are so much better because, look at it this way, even if you don't completely kill the weed in the fall, now you've got winter coming in, and winter may do the rest of the job for you. If you've severely weakened a weed, that winter kill may take it out completely. Also, if you wait until the spring to get out there and apply your product, Well, that weed has had all winter to get stronger, get that root system going. It gets started early in the spring, and by the time you're after it in the later spring or mid to late spring, it's already got a tremendous root system, and you just can't kill those weeds the same way you could if you did it in the fall.
So the main reason why a lot of farmers will tell me they don't apply something in the fall is, well, I'm busy with harvesting other crops, or I thought I might be able to get by without spending any money on it, and so I just thought I'd take my chances. You don't want to do that in either case. Yes, I know you may be harvesting, but it does not take long to run a sprayer out there in 1,000 acres. Okay, and the other thing, as far as trying to save money for spring, what are you waiting for? I mean, wheat is at a tremendous price, and it's probably going to go even higher, because let's face it, the corn and soybean markets are good. So a lot of farmers are dumping wheat, and they're going to corn and soybeans. Wheat acres might be down in 2012. You got to have tremendous wheat because you're going to have a great price. So get out there and get that stuff under control in the fall when you have the very best chance.
Well, there certainly are a lot of tough grass weeds you have to deal with in winter wheat, and getting after them in the fall is the best thing you can do. Fortunately, you probably aren't fighting this weed in the fall in your winter wheat. We'll show you how to control this tough weed coming up later in the show.